The blast doors were sealing shut, and I was going to die on the wrong side of them. My name is Koresh Andu, and I have spent 30 years as a weapons keeper for the Kolvath Trade Union, and in all those years nothing had ever come close to breaking through the vault of Station Marrow, the way those creatures were breaking through it now. They came from a drifting hulk we had towed in for salvage 2 days earlier. Nobody scanned it properly. Nobody checked the lower decks. By the time the first screams came over the comm channel, the things inside had already spread through 6 levels, and every soldier we sent down to stop them did not come back up. I was standing in the vault chamber when the last door gave way, staring at the one weapon in this station nobody could use, a long silver rifle mounted behind reinforced glass, a relic so old that even its maker's name had been lost to time. We called it the Warden's Hand. Every strong body in the sector had tried to claim it over the years. A champion from the Dolvex Mining Guild once dislocated both shoulders trying to pull it free. A squad of augmented mercenaries hired specifically to test it left with nothing but bruised pride and a very large bill. The weapon had a lock-in cradle that would not release unless something in its sensors was satisfied, and nobody, in 40 years of trying, had ever satisfied it. Now the vault door groaned behind me, and 3 shapes slid into the chamber, low and fast, their skin the color of wet stone, clicking sounds coming from somewhere in their throats that made my spine go cold. I had 1 soldier left standing beside me, a young recruit barely out of training, and a supply worker who had wandered in looking for a fire extinguisher, and instead found herself in the middle of the worst night of her life. Her name was Nadia Price. She worked cargo intake, mostly counting crates and checking manifests, and she was holding a crate hook in one hand like it might somehow help against creatures that had already killed a dozen armed guards. "Get behind me," the young soldier said, raising his rifle with a shaking hand. "That won't stop them," I said. "Nothing we have will stop them." Nadia was staring past both of us, at the silver weapon locked behind its glass case. "What is that?" she asked. "A weapon nobody can use," I said. 200 people have tried. Don't waste your last minutes wondering about it." She was already moving toward it. "Nadia, no," I shouted, but she had already grabbed the emergency release lever beside the case, the one meant only for evacuation drills, and the glass slid open with a hiss. She reached in with one hand and lifted the rifle off its cradle like it was an empty crate. The chamber went silent except for the clicking of the creatures behind us. I have seen strong bodies fail against that weapon. I have seen soldiers built for war worlds strain until their joints popped. I had never, not once, seen anyone lift it the way she just did. Calm, easy, almost thoughtless, like she had done it every day of her life. "It's lighter than the crates I move all shift," she said, turning it over in her hand, checking the grip the way someone checks a tool they have just picked up off a shelf. The young soldier's mouth had fallen open. I did not have time to share his shock. The creatures were already moving. "Point it and pull the trigger near their throats," I said. "That is the only place their skin is thin enough." She did not answer. She simply turned, raised the weapon, and fired. The sound was not loud. It was a low hum, followed by a thin line of light that connected her hand to the nearest creature's throat for less than a second. The creature folded and stopped moving entirely. The other 2 paused, which they had never done in every account I had heard from the levels below. Something about that light, that sound, made them hesitate, and Nadia did not waste the hesitation. She fired twice more, quick and steady, and both remaining creatures dropped where they stood. The chamber went quiet. The young soldier lowered his rifle slowly, staring at the 3 shapes on the floor, then at Nadia, then at the ancient weapon in her hand. "How?" he said, and it was not really a question, more like a sound his mouth made, because his mind had nothing else to offer. "I used to shoot cans off a fence with my brother," Nadia said. "Same idea, I guess. You just aim and don't overthink it." I did not have time to process what I had just witnessed, because the comm channel crackled with a voice from the lower decks, panicked, breathless, reporting that a much larger group was moving upward through the maintenance shafts, heading straight for the crew quarters where 40 people were sheltering with no way out. "We have to move," I said, "now." Nadia was already checking the small dial on the side of the weapon, counting charge remaining, the way someone checks fuel in a vehicle before a long drive. "How many shots left?" she asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "Nobody has ever fired it before." "Then I guess we find out together," she said, and started walking toward the door. We moved through the station corridors fast, the young soldier close behind us, my own legs aching from years of a desk job I had let soften me too much. Twice more, creatures dropped from ceiling vents ahead of us, and twice more, Nadia dropped them before I could even finish shouting a warning. "You're fast," the soldier said, breathless, trying to keep pace. Cargo work makes you fast, she said. You've got seconds to catch a falling crate before it crushes your foot. This isn't that different. We reached the crew quarters just as the maintenance shaft door at the far end began to buckle inward. 40 people were pressed against the back wall, children among them, all staring at the shaking metal with the kind of silence that comes only from complete fear. A woman near the front, older, with gray streaks through her hair, saw the weapon in Nadia's hand and went pale. That's the warden's hand, she said. That's the vault weapon. How is she holding that? She lifted it with one hand, I said. I watched it happen myself. The woman looked at me like I had told her the sky had turned green, and then the shaft door gave way entirely, and there was no more time for disbelief. 5 creatures poured through the gap, faster than the ones before, clearly agitated by whatever had happened to the others down below. Nadia stepped forward, putting herself between the creatures and the crowd, and I remember thinking, in that half-second, that no matter what strange gift had let her lift that weapon, she was still just one person, and 5 of these things moving at once was more than anyone should have to face alone. She fired without hesitation, the same steady rhythm as before, point, pull, move to the next target, and one by one the creatures dropped, until only one remained, faster than the rest, already lunging toward her before she could bring the weapon back around. The young soldier stepped in front of her without thinking, took the impact meant for her and went down hard, but it gave Nadia the half-second she needed to turn and fire directly into the creature's throat as it passed. It collapsed inches from where the soldier lay. Nadia dropped to her knees beside him immediately, checking for injuries, and I could see relief flood her face when he groaned and tried to sit up, bruised badly but alive, his armor having taken most of the force. That was reckless, she told him, though her voice shook with something closer to gratitude than anger. You needed the second, he said, wincing as she helped him sit against the wall. Figured I could spare one. The gray-haired woman knelt down to help steady him, and slowly, cautiously, the rest of the crowd began to breathe again, realizing the immediate danger had passed. I checked the comm channel. The lower decks reported no further movement. Whatever remained of the creatures that had broken through the hulk seemed to have either been destroyed or retreated back into the wreck we had foolishly towed in 2 days earlier. Station Marrow was quiet for the first time in hours. I sat down against the wall, my legs finally giving out from exhaustion, and looked at Nadia, who was still holding the warden's hand loosely at her side, checking on the soldier, checking on the frightened families nearby, moving through the aftermath with the same steady calm she had shown through the entire fight. Can I put this down now? She asked eventually, holding the weapon out toward me. My arm is starting to feel it. I almost laughed despite everything. After lifting it effortlessly, after firing it 8 times without a single wasted shot, only now, hours later, danger past, was she finally admitting the weapon had any weight to it at all. You can put it down, I said. You have more than earned the rest. She set it carefully against the wall, gentle, almost respectful, the way someone sets down a tool they have grown fond of, rather than a legendary weapon that had defeated every strong body that tried to claim it for 40 years. Word of what happened spread through Station Marrow within hours and within a day. Through every trading post connected along our supply route, messages came in from station masters across 3 systems, asking if it was true, asking how a cargo worker with no combat training had lifted the warden's hand when soldiers built for war had failed for decades. I did not have a clean answer for them. I still do not. Some of our engineers now believe the weapon was never testing raw strength at all, but something else, a kind of steadiness under pressure, a mind that does not panic when it matters most. Perhaps its old cradle mechanism was measuring calm rather than muscle, and every strong body that ever strained against it with pure force had been failing the test in exactly the way it was built to reject. The young soldier, recovering in the medical bay with 2 cracked ribs and a story he would tell for the rest of his life, has his own theory, one he repeats often to anyone who visits him. He believes cargo workers like Nadia carry a kind of hidden readiness, built from years of catching falling weight before it crushes something important, a steadiness that looks unremarkable until the exact moment it is needed. I have my own theory too, formed from watching Nadia in the quiet hours after the fighting ended, sitting with the survivors, checking manifests out of habit even while a rescue team documented the vault weapon she had somehow claimed. I think the truth is simpler and stranger than any grand theory about ancient locks or hidden gifts. I think Nadia Price simply did not know she was supposed to fail. She had never heard the stories about the warden's hand before that night. She did not know 40 years of strong bodies had broken themselves trying to lift it. To her, it was an object someone needed used, in the middle of an emergency, and she reached for it the same way she reached for anything heavy on her shift, without pausing to ask whether it was meant to be possible. Before she returned to her normal duties 3 days later, I offered her a permanent position in station security, full training, better pay than cargo intake had ever given her. She thought about it for a long moment before answering. "I like counting crates," she said. "It's honest work. Nobody's life depends on me getting a manifest wrong." "Someone's life depended on you tonight," I said. She smiled at that, small and a little tired. "I guess that's true. Maybe I'll keep the hook in my belt from now on, just in case." I asked her, before she walked back toward the cargo bay, if she understood what she had done, if she understood that she had rewritten 40 years of belief about strength in a single night. She thought about it, the same way she thought about everything, without rushing toward an answer. "I think," she said finally, "the weapon was never waiting for someone strong. I think it was waiting for someone who wouldn't shake when it mattered." Then she picked up her crate hook, the same one she had carried into the vault chamber out of habit rather than hope, and walked back to her shift, as if nothing unusual had happened at all. I stood in the empty vault chamber a long while after she left, looking at the open case where the warden's hand now rested, no longer locked, no longer a mystery waiting to humiliate the next strong body foolish enough to try it. We had spent 40 years measuring the wrong thing entirely. Somewhere across the station now, a cargo worker is counting crates again, checking manifests, complaining good-naturedly about a shift that ran long, carrying on with her ordinary life as if she had not just changed everything we believed about what strength looks like. I do not know what the next legend at Station Marrow will be, but I know now, without any doubt left in me, that the steadiest hands in this galaxy rarely announce themselves ahead of time, and the quietest ones are usually the last anyone thinks to test.